This is a video describing the pressure relief valve system, or PRV, in the Pungo. The PRV is a safety feature in the Pungo, and its sole purpose is to keep the system from becoming overpressurized. Before we get into the PRV detail, let's just go over how the Pungo works. When you pull the trigger past a certain point, you start injecting gas, argon gas, through this port, this little hole here, into the bottle. What that does is that allows wine to enter this port, go through the fluid assembly, and out the spout. Now, it's important to note that when you're pouring with the Pungo, you're really not forcing wine out of the bottle. What you're doing is breaking the vacuum to allow the wine to pour. Typically, the pressure in the bottle is anywhere from 0.5 to 1.5 psi. A typical pour that's not knocking over your wine glass, but is also a quick pour, is about 1 psi. So there should never be any high pressures involved in this delivery system. If something were to occur where pressures do build up in that bottle, you want to get rid of that quickly. Now, it's an extremely rare occurrence. Should never happen to you, but it has to be there just in case. Now, let's go over why it can pop. Number one reason is going to be a blockage somewhere in this system. If there's a blockage of this gas port here, either something covering it or internally, the gas isn't even going to be able to make it into the bottle. That's not going to be a problem as far as the bottle is concerned, but it will pop the PRV. If there's a blockage in this port, at this spout, or anywhere in between, now you're going to have a buildup of pressure in the bottle. Gas is being injected, but wine and gas is not coming out. That's going to pop the PRV, and that's what it's supposed to do. Now, if you pop the PRV, you have to manually reset it. The reason we did that is so that you have to think about why it popped and prevent it from happening again. And it's important to know why it popped. If it pops again after resetting it, then there's another issue, and probably the best thing for you to do is to contact us, info@pungo.us. We also have contact numbers there. We'll talk you through it. We'll figure it out. With your help, we'll get you back on your feet. Now, I want to go over one other reason why it may pop. When you put a brand new cartridge on the Pungo, these are full of, this is under 2600 psi of pressure. So you've got a lot of pressure there. When you put it on the Pungo, you're at your maximum pressure of the system. Now, as you use this, it'll go down to 0. But at the very first installation of it, you're going to be at 2600 psi. So now you're at a high pressure. On top of that, if you're putting this on a bottle that's full, and let me just show you with this one here with a stopper in it, the headspace here, or ullage, is going to determine how quickly you build up pressure. For example, if this bottle is full of wine or any liquid, liquid's not compressible. So when you start to pour on a bottle that's completely full, you only have this much compressible space. So you've now got a situation where you've got a brand new cartridge with the most pressure in it and the smallest compressible space in a bottle. When you combine those two, if you take the Pungo and really jam on the trigger as hard as you can, I don't have gas in here, but if you really yank on it, you're adding a lot of pressure to a small space, and it's possible that you could pop the PRV. Now, we've got it set where it takes a little time to do that. Even in this situation, if you're pouring one glass, by the time you finish the glass and let off, you probably haven't reached that activation point. If you're pouring multiple glasses, it's a possibility. Probably not, but the point is there's no need to pull the trigger that forcefully. When you've got a brand new cartridge or you're on a full bottle, best just to pull the trigger and watch the flow. And if you're getting a nice steady flow, you know you're at the right pressure on the trigger, and everything's going to be fine. It's only if you start seeing like a seltzer bottle shooting out, forcefully, then you might be reaching a level where the PRV is going to pop. So that would be the most common reason, and it's not a defect in the Pungo. There's nothing wrong with your Pungo. There's nothing wrong with your wine bottle. It's just it's set there for a safety feature, and it needs to be there. So our recommendation is just when you first put on a new cartridge, take it a little easy on the first glass or two, and you'll be fine. All right, I'm going to put this aside. Now let's say you popped your PRV and you're pulling the trigger. You're hearing gas, but the wine's not coming out, or it's coming out slowly, or maybe even possibly you might see leakage around here or under this trigger. Those are sure signs that you've popped the PRV. Very easy to reset. Let's go through that now. A couple things just to pay attention to. Number one, it might be smart if you had a cookie sheet, a bowl, a plate, something here in case you drop parts, you don't lose them. Maybe a towel, lint-free towel. It's just, there's some little parts in here that you definitely don't want to lose and try to find on the floor. All right, so let's say we're going to reset this PRV. First thing I do is just turn it over. Put your fingers, you're holding onto the front cover, you're holding onto the back. Loosen these two screws. This is a 7/64 Allen key or hex wrench. Now you're still holding the front and the housing together. Just turn it over. Drop your screws out. Set this down on the table. Now it's sitting there. It's stable. You're ready to pull the cover off. I usually put my finger here just to hold it down. Pull straight up. You've got the cover and the trigger. This is all one piece. It doesn't come apart. Now you're looking in here. Now, the reason I left this down on the table is this PRV is right here, and it consists of a precision ground rubber ball and a precision bore. Now, if you look at this and you see that it's clean, there's no wine residue, you don't see any liquid, any water, it seems dry and clean, you can literally just press it back in place. What we use for this is a chopstick that the end's a little flat. You could use, any soft wooden tool is good, plastic possibly. You just don't want to use some sort of metal device to push in there. The reason for that is the sides of the bore are very precise. You don't want to be scratching up the sides. You don't want to tear the ball. This works pretty well. So just line this up with the center, kind of like operation game. And you just push it down and you'll feel it seat in the back. That's it, you're done. Put the cover back on, you're ready to go. Now let's say you looked here and you saw some wine residue, it's a little messy around here. Not that big a deal. Take the ball, you're going to remove the ball first to clean this. Again, if you want to do it over a bowl, if you use your hand, just be careful not to lose it. You can see I'm wearing rubber gloves. The reason for that is the oils on your hand can actually lower the pressure that this pops at. So you really want to keep it clean. So I'll turn that over. Now you can see the ball just fell out. And that's how easy it can fall out on the floor too. So let's set that aside somewhere it's not going to roll away. Check out the bore. You look in here. Now let's say it's needs cleaning. Simple tool is just to use a Q-tip with some alcohol. Swab it out. You're going to see probably wine residue on the Q-tip. Just swab it out a few times, dry it a few times until you're happy that it's dry and clean. Set it aside 15 minutes or so. Let it dry. Let the alcohol evaporate. Same with the ball. You can clean the ball with a Q-tip using rubber gloves. You can set it down and clean it. You can put it in a little cup of alcohol if you want. Just don't let it soak really too long, but just enough to get the residue off. Sooner or later you'll see that there's no residue comes off, it's clean. So the ball's been drying for 15 minutes, the housing's been drying for 15 minutes. Drop the ball back in the hole, reset it with your chopstick. You're ready to go. Put the cover back on. There's a little hole here that you'll see that interfaces with this pin here. That's the cam pivot pin. If you just line this up with the square, it's pretty simple. It goes in pretty easily. As long as you don't see a gap around here, you know it's aligned correctly. Again, holding it fingers front and back so it's held together. Drop the screws back in. 7/64 Allen wrench. No need to over tighten it, just a little snug. You don't want to strip the threads. And there you go. You're back in action, you're ready to go. Put your new cartridge in. And that's it. Alright, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. Thanks.